Good morning, Melody.
Good morning, Beth Ann. How are you today?
I'm doing pretty good. We've got day 2 here.
How about that? No one has shut us down. We didn't shut down.
Not yet. Melody and I are still trying to coordinate how we do this, and with her in one state and me in the other, it's being a little bit of a challenge, but we will get there. And I go through the articles in the evenings and in the afternoons. And yesterday afternoon, I had personal appointments that I couldn't concentrate on the show so much. But one thing, Melody, and I think I want to start out with a good story. I want to start out with this. This comes from lifenews.com. It's a really good news source to see what's going on for those of you who are pro-life. They talk about a lot of stories. They have stories there about women and men, and legislation that's going on regarding abortion or Planned Parenthood. And so I kind of wanted to start out with that, Melody. I think if that's okay with you.
It's perfectly fine.
This young woman was brutally raped, and she happened to be a redhead, and she did conceive during the rape. She was not supposed to survive the rape. And the article starts out about the survivor's guilt, because every once in a while they would call her and tell her that they found another woman that had been brutally raped and murdered, also a redhead, had the same DNA that she had. She goes on to tell her story of feeling guilty that she couldn't stop this guy, or that she survived. And, of course, in her survival, she did become pregnant. And she was a married woman, is a married woman. They're both Christians, and they chose life. And they are raising the son, their son, that was conceived because of the rape. But she said people think she's amazing or think the story is amazing. And then she said under her article, and it's really a good article, about what she had been through, somebody, I'm sure they're not pro-life, said, "Why is this a story?" And she says, "I thought exactly the same thing. I conceived a child, I gave birth to a child, so why is that a story?" And of course the story is that she goes on talking about forgiveness, and it wasn't until the rapist was murdered himself for having done the same thing to another person, and the brother of that person sought him out and murdered him. Now, it goes on to say, and it just happens to be, it's not that makes any difference, that he was a native Indian and lived on a reservation. And so the police had trouble getting to him because they had to go through certain things to get to the reservation. Anyway, the brother of one of the other natives there, he had raped his sister brutally, and he ended up murdering him. She said it wasn't until he was gone that she was able to come to forgiveness. But the story there is the fact that she chose life, and for some of us that seems to be a surprise when she said it really shouldn't be a story. I'm just a woman that conceived a child and gave birth to a child. But since the death of her rapist, she's been more able to forgive and bring closure to it, but at the same time, all communication and all information was completely cut off because her story or her crime is considered closed. And she said she knows that one day her son, she doesn't even know what tribe he's with or anything, will want to know his heritage from that. And she said she doesn't, she knows that the chapters are not really closed yet, but she has been able to forgive the rapist. But she went through an awful lot of guilt, especially when other women were raped, and they were all, apparently he liked redheads. He went after redheads. And it was just a fascinating story. It was a good story about life.
Well, you know what I see? I don't mean to interrupt, but what I see the stories about is that the strength. And she got her strength with Christ and her faith. And this is a story of her and what she went through, but it also shows, you know, when you have your faith, how it can bring you through things. And now she's telling her story that helps other people also. And how, you know, when they are dealing with difficult situations, I mean, life isn't easy. And the older we get, the harder it is. You know, I wasn't told that when I was young, but you know, in some respects it's easier, but in other respects, you know, personal health and issues and so forth people can have. It's difficult. Aging is difficult. So it is a very good story about her faith and her strength and how it brought her through.
I have said before that, you know, I love to quote life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, property, and prosperity. I put all that together. But it has seemed to me, and I had Michelle Mockin on my other show at one time when we were talking about some of these things with abortion and Planned Parenthood, and that was with the Vitae Foundation, which is an awesome foundation if you have not heard of them. But I told her, you know, it just kind of came to me, those who don't appreciate or love life or value life, they don't value liberty, or vice versa. If they don't value liberty, which is the way I see the liberals and the progressives, they don't value liberty, they don't have a value for life. And so we see all these progressive idealistics or ideas coming out of their agendas, and they don't value life in and of itself. You know, they're ready to give up the old people. They're ready to euthanize the old people or put them in little communes, and you know, it's just amazing to me that they don't appreciate life, not human life. Anyway. So, go ahead.
And can you love life without faith? You know, without loving God, can you love life? I don't know.
I don't know. I know there are quotes. I've got quotes going on in the air here. You know, good people who love their families that are not necessarily believers, but it always is amazing to me, like you said at the beginning, how they endure the struggles in life, the tragedies in life. You know, I've had a few tragedies in my life, and sometimes I think the big tragedies are easier to deal with, because I do lean more on the Lord at that time. The little everyday annoyances and pet peeves and things that just get in the way, those seem to be more frustrating and I guess a lack of me walking as I should every minute of every day, you know, and relying on Him in the small things as well as the big things. So life is very important, and it was to our founding fathers.
Yes, very much so. Very nice story, Beth.
Well, thank you. And I have this article as well that is talking about the transgender issue that has recently aroused, or whatever you call it. It's come up again in the media because of what President Trump tweeted, and it hasn't come to fruition yet, but he wants to I don't want to use the word ban, but he doesn't want to allow the transgenders in the military, go back to that. And they have numerous reasons, and I don't have the article in my hand. I have this article in my hand, but I don't have the article in my hand that approached it in a financial way, a monetary way, and how much it was going to cost. You and I can't go get plastic surgery and our insurance pay for it. They don't pay for that kind of thing. But yet that's what they want in the military, is to pay for the sex changes for the transgenders. But in this, it was talking about, and this is from a WorldNet Daily article, and it just talks about how he's going to ban that and wants to ban that, and how that will strengthen the military. And it seems like the progressives that don't value life, They don't value family, Melody, and we're tearing down the family, and strong families make a strong nation, and we see the families weakening. They, first of all, they want to take away. They can't take it away, but the faith that we have in God, our Christianity, it seems to be a problem for liberal progressives. They don't like that because we have certain things we believe in or stand on, and I don't hate others. I don't hate somebody that's a transgender, but I don't believe that their lifestyle should be pushed into things. I don't think that's pushed into acceptance, and anyway, it comes down to love on that too.
Absolutely. We were always the little church that I used to go to in Missouri. We were, we were taught to love the people but hate the sin. And certainly, there was a quote from the former Navy SEAL Chris Beck, who's now living as Kristen Beck.
Yeah, he's in this.
Yeah, he blasted Trump about saying that I'm worthy. He's saying that Trump is telling him that he's not worthy, and I don't see that at all. We're looking at a financial situation, something that can disrupt the progression of the forces. I mean, there's a lot more to it than just whether you're worthy or not. It's not really about you. It's about. And we see this, just like, what was that, Manning? What was it, Bradley Manning? No, that shouldn't be allowed. I think I told this story on your program. One of my wholesalers, I know I told it on my own program, one of my wholesalers for gold and silver was very high up in the Navy. And he told me that from his discussions from the various commanders on these Navy ships, 20 years ago, their concerns was, maybe a fist fight here and there, but they were able to focus and be decisive in running that ship. Then it progressed when women were allowed on these long tours on the ships, on these Navy ships. When you're out to sea for months on end, he had to start worrying about pregnancies. He had to start dealing with sexual harassments. And that all took away from his daily briefings and his daily runnings of the ship. Now you bring in the transgenders, and there's other issues that he has to deal with. So it does take away from the running of those massive boats and ships. And, that's not what these commanders also who run these ships have signed on to and for. It was their commanders, and they didn't, it's difficult to deal with rapes and pregnancies, and
it's a distraction.
It is.
And it's a distraction and a trust issue in the foxhole. And it's amazing to me how you and I think alike, because when I was going through this article, and he says, as a transgender member of the military, giving myself to my country also meant suppressing who I was and spending every minute terrified I would get caught or outed. And I put on here, but it's not about you. At that point, it's not about you. We're going into a break. I'm going to give out the phone number. Your calls are welcome at 717-300-1218. That's 717-300-1218. You're listening to Power Talks with Beth Ann and Melody Cedarstrom, and we will be right back.
Hear it first on FirstAmendmentRadio.com and FirstAmendmentRadio.net.
I know you all want answers, and believe me, so do I, and I'll do my best to get them.
Have you seen the Left Behind movies? Have you read the Left Behind fictional book series? Not everyone believes Left Behind is true prophecy. Some may even regard as conspiratorial the mainstream re-release of the Left Behind movie with actor Nicolas Cage portraying the main character as an attempt to further reinforce in the minds of all this perception of false prophecy, in order to condition the masses for the play about to begin. because they see the world stage shaping to fulfill what they have been led to believe is sound biblical interpretation, a left-behind rapture scenario. This false view of prophecy is reinforced in the mind, not only of its adherents, but also includes those who have been merely exposed to the specific media. Is it possible that false prophecy can be fulfilled? The rapture theories have always been in dispute. Pre-trib, mid-trib, and post-trib disputes have risen up in exclusively evangelical circles of recent history, so that when true believers don't suddenly disappear, this element will easily go by the wayside when all see a new Jewish temple begin to be built. Will this be part of the great delusion that will come upon the whole earth? It seems that this great prophetic delusion has already overcome practically the entire American evangelical and Christian world. Get the book, The Rapture Will Be Canceled. To learn more, visit crosstheborder.org. That's CROSS, crosstheborder.org.
The program you are listening to is 100% sponsored by you, the listener, on this First Amendment Rights Media channel. You will notice that there are few commercials on this radio network. There's a good reason for that. Corporate advertising dollars come with strings that limit program content. So without your help, these programs cannot continue on internet or our several affiliates. If you benefit by the educational law programs, we ask you to give. If you are admonished or nurtured by the Bible and ministry programs, we ask you to give. If some voice a cause that you are passionate about, we ask you to give. If you believe in any of these, we ask you to support them as you would a missionary on a continual basis, as if giving a tithe for missionary radio. These programs are not commercially viable and must be supported by those faithful to the cause of truth. Look for the button to sponsor your favorite programs at our listen and schedule pages on the internet. Then, when you subscribe, we will send you the last quarterly MP3 CD of that program immediately, and continue to do so with each new quarter. We will also give you unlimited archive access to all of our programs. We're asking you to give much less than a tithe, so that you may also send support directly to a particular program host, cause, and anywhere else the Spirit may lead you. Do all to the glory of our God and Creator, for His holy nation, the only kingdom that will last forever. Thank you for listening.
And we have returned. You're listening to Power Talks with Beth Ann and Melody Cedarstrom in the morning. The number to call, and we invite you to call. We invite conversations. I call it Common Sense Conversations on my other talk show. It's 717-300-1218. That's 717-300-1218. Melody, you made a good point. You know, sometimes we do a lot of things when we're on break. She made a good point on this article we've been discussing.
Yeah, and we'll bring it to close after that. But, you know, in a time when our country faces serious national security threats, I mean, the troops go through hours of transgender sensitivity classes. And a lot of this criticism to Trump is coming from the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee. You have senators, you have representatives, I'm not going to list them all. You have Aaron Belkin, director of the Palm Center, convicted transgender soldier Chelsea Manning, and many more. But I'm talking about the senators and representatives. All of them have been active in pushing the U.S. military into the social experimentation of alternative sexual identities.
Experimentation. That's what we need.
Experimentation.
When lives are on the line.
Billions of dollars. When good women, men and women's lives are on the line. It's That's what we have running Washington. That's what needs to change, but that's another day and another story.
Well, and it has long been considered a mental illness, and now they're wanting us to say, no, that's normal behavior. But it's not normal behavior when you want to change the sex that you were when you were born, and now you can choose what gender you want to be. You know, I kind of like being a female every morning when I wake up, so I don't know.
and what's sad is we were talking about the military, we're talking about adults, but let's go to the high schools around this country and the confusion, these kids, the televisions, the programming, the movies, all this, the sexual identity questions that is just brainwashing them to where they don't know what they are. You have little girls in high schools that want to be little boys, and schools go right along with it. And the parents go right along with it. It's like,
well, they encourage it.
We want you to express yourself and be free. Well,
there's nothing more enslaving than sin and confusion. And instead of helping them figure out who they are, they're trying to capture them or enable them in their confusion. And I don't know the answer to all of that because it's something beyond anything I can fathom. But it's not any longer considered a mental illness according to at least this Democrat committee and the progressives who just want everyone accepted except you and me. They want everybody accepted. I'm going to move to an article that I want to make a point of this mental illness. Because it was Senator Feinstein, I do believe, back in, I want to say 2015 or so, that she made the comment that all military veterans have mental illness. She made that comment. And, of course, that was pointing to gun control. And this particular article, and I don't have where it actually came from, but it's an A.W.R. Hawkins that wrote it. But they've even got a video, so if you want to do a search on it, it's New York deputies knock on Vietnam vet's door and they confiscate his guns. He's 70-year-old Vietnam vet. Said he was watching television on his New York home in Taberg. I'm not sure how you pronounce that, Taberg, New York, when the deputies knocked on the door and then entered and they confiscated all of his firearms. The veteran is Don Hall. He said the deputies told him he had a record of mental illnesses, mental issues, and they took his handguns and then asked if he had long guns, and he took those also. Hall said he was in disbelief that he had tried to think back in his 70 years what he had ever said or done that made somebody think he had a mental problem. He said, I was guilty until I could prove myself innocent. They don't tell you why or what you supposedly have done or did. He said it was just a bad screw-up. Well, Don Hall is pretty much a common name. It's not like one of our last names that isn't quite as common. But whatever happened, Melody, to the American way where you're innocent until proven guilty? He had to go get records at hospitals where he lived in that area and prove that he had never been treated. He had to get, records from the pharmacy, from the hospitals, from his doctors to prove that he had never been treated for any kind of mental disorder or mental illness or anything like that, never had any mental issues. And he did get found innocent, and they did give him back, which I was surprised. They did give him back his guns. But this came out of the, the 2013 SAFE Act, which was after the Sandy Hook Elementary School tragedy. And they can just come in and take it. They can just come in and say, we've had somebody tell us that you are mentally ill, that you have mental issues, that you had an emotional problem. Where are they going to draw the line? That was something with Obamacare that I had wondered for a long time and still do. Where do they draw the line? The younger women have PMS and they get treated for that. Is that a mental illness? Are they going to claim that they're mentally ill and they shouldn't have a handgun or be able to protect themselves in their homes or on their persons? I mean, where does it stop? But this man, he had to fight to prove who he was and to prove he was innocent. And that's not the American way.
There's a new law in the books, and I can't remember if it was Washington or Oregon, where the court, the judge, can determine whether you are mentally ill. So if you don't like your neighbor and you want to claim that, he's mentally ill, this gentleman had the opportunity. I mean, at least he had to go. He could go get such things and to prove, that he was not mentally ill. But if the court would be able to override what he presented, if the court thought he was mentally ill. So again, if you take a pill for depression for a month, does that make you mentally ill, just like what you said? I mean, it's just so out of...
Where do they draw the line?
They can't push gun control on a federal level, but they can do it in your states. And and they push it as gun safety. This is their new word, gun safety. And it isn't. It's all about gun control. People, you go to their websites and, there's nothing on there about safety. It's all about gun control. And again, it's another way to, make it a little more acceptable and mainstream and to make it gun safety, because everybody's concerned about gun safety.
Well, gun safety has to be taught. I mean, I've gone to some of these gun things. Of course,
but my point is they use gun safety to push gun control.
Absolutely. And, of course, that's one of the Salolinski's, or the 8 points of control, and that is gun. And there's only one reason, and I tell my listeners this all the time. Our listeners. We have our listeners now, Melody. And there's only one reason for any government to want to disarm its citizens. There's only one reason. And that's because they themselves are perpetrating crimes and corrupt against the people. Do we not see that right now in this nation? Who's pushing the hardest for gun control? And as we're unfolding all these accusations at the current president, it seems to be unfolding. The truth is that many in the Democrat Party, high up in the last administration, have been perpetrating crimes against the people. And they're the very ones that want to disarm us, because they know eventually we're going to find out what they've been up to. And there are going to be a lot of people not happy. That's my opinion anyway. People tell me about their gold and silver, they're always concerned that government will come knocking on their door to confiscate their gold. And I says, well, they got to confiscate your weapons first. So they're not going to come after your gold until they get your weapons. So, I don't think that's going to happen. So I saw an article a few years ago, and it gave the statistics and the numbers of how many people in the United States have guns, and particularly when it was talking about our hunters. We've got a lot of hunters, and you know what? They know how to aim and they know how to shoot, and you're not going to get their guns. There's no way that they're going to allow you to come in and take their guns. Another reason to love rural America. Us hicks, we're kind of hard to deal with sometimes. I say us hicks. She's not really a hick anymore, but I think we're heading into another break, aren't we? Here pretty quick?
Probably, but, just real quick, there's a little county up in northern Pennsylvania on the border of New York, Potter County. And small county, but 50% of their population have carry conceal permits. And
in Missouri,
it's fantastic. So one out 1 out of 2 is, has a weapon, and it's a very safe place to be.
And we've got a little bit for a break. I was thinking of the next show, which we have a break at the bottom of the hour. Not only that, but in Missouri now, you don't have to have a permit to have concealed carry. I do recommend everybody go through the training, but you don't have to have a permit. That changed the 1st of January this year. So,
fantastic.
The Second Amendment's important, and I think people tend to, if you're not into guns, you don't really think it's important. They don't understand the true meaning of that Second Amendment. It isn't just about, say, this woman that was raped that we talked about, protecting yourself in that situation, although that is important. It's not about that. It's about protecting yourselves from a tyrannical government. And that's what our founding fathers dealt with. And that's the only reason that anybody in government would want to disarm their citizens. And that's why that exists. And we have James Madison to thank for the Bill of Rights, because he didn't trust the Constitution being enough. So, he was right. I'm not sure the Bill of Rights is enough, but he was absolutely correct. But anyway.
We do live in a strange world. I talked about this, and I don't want to keep referencing my other show, but for the listeners, it's Financial Survival, and it's at 4 p.m. Eastern Time, WWCR. And it's a financial program, but to me what is also important is how we see, things are just progressing so rapidly. And I talked about it on this program about a Wisconsin company that is today or yesterday they held a party to implant the employees with microchips. Now, this is just disturbing to me. 3 Square Market, they received international attention, which is a lot of part of it because they're going to be making a lot of money off of this because they've had so many inquiries on these chips since they made the announcement that they have a voluntary microchip program. It's supposed to be the first of its kind in the United States. The program is voluntary to the employees. The employees, it'll allow them to once they have the chip implanted, the radio frequency identification chip implanted, it'll open doors, log into computers, make purchases from vending machines. We are becoming so lazy. But this technology is similar to what the mobile pay services like Apple and Google Wallet and so forth. 3 Square Market assures employees that they will not be able to track them because the chip does not have GPS. Are you going to believe them? Like it can't be changed. It's like, are people really that naive? Or the company said the chip is FDA approved. It is removed similar to a splinter. Well, the owner was on one of the TV programs, cable programs, and he says you basically can't remove it. But this article says that it can, similar to a splinter. A reporter from the Milwaukee partner station WISN is covering the quote-unquote chip party. Tim Elliott had a chip implanted and tweeted that it hurt a bit like a mean pinch.
I have a hard time understanding why somebody would be okay with that. I'm one of those that won't even sign up for preferred customer card.
I agree.
In the grocery store.
I don't either.
It's like, I should be preferred when I walk in this door. The fact that I chose you, come here. And, of course, that's about data. But they don't need you to sign a card to have that data. It's just something that, I guess I'm a little stubborn. I got too much of that founding father blood running through my veins of distrust. Maybe I'm related to James Madison. I don't know. But it's beyond my comprehension why they would even submit to that and think it's okay. But,
this is so wrong. This is just so evil. And people I just want to shake people. This is how evil works. They show the good side of bad things. They make it all sound so good and so beneficial to mankind. And, look how much greater the world is with computers. And the masses are constantly fooled, just like Obamacare.
Oh,
they
yes.
sugarcoat it.
You can keep your doctor if you like your doctor.
They sugarcoat it, and everyone gets fooled.
We got fooled a long time ago. Remember Social Security? And they told us, in fact, I'm so old that my card still says that, it cannot be used for identification. And what happens when you go out? May I see your Social Security number, please? Do you have your Social Security number? And one day, this was a long time ago, and I was, I think it was Christmas shopping. I was in Penny's, and I went in there after I got off work. And it was a young girl working, the cash register. And I looked at her and I said, you know what? I'm going to show it to you, but I want you to read the bottom of it, that it's against the law for you to ask me for it. And right there she says, oh, I didn't know. I said, no, you didn't know. We were told that, but now if you look at the new Social Security cards, my kids, it doesn't say that. It no longer says that. So that promise went out the window, and that was a number to track people, and so was a chip. Mm-hmm. So they're being lied to, we're being lied to, and it isn't nothing new.
Absolutely. And it's one thing to be lied to, but it's another thing to be, conditioned and to believe the lies. And it's sometimes I'm surprised at the degree of it's just frustrating sometimes to. And when we talk about the elite, when we talk about so many of these evil things in the past, they'd get to this certain point, and you'd have religion push them underground. You'd have this evil that would try to do all these things, but they were always pushed back underground. And then finally they realized how they can introduce the bad by presenting it as good, and it has been bought hook, line, and sinker. And here we are today. It affects every part of our lives. It affects our freedoms, our liberties, our finances.
Every single thing.
Every single thing.
Every single thing.
And where do we go? What is the future for our grandchildren? You have grandchildren.
I do. I have great-grandchildren.
How old are you?
I was auctioned off in kindergarten. No. We don't ask that question, Melody.
Well, tell me during break.
I'll tell you. Yes, I'm not quite old enough for Social Security yet, but I'm getting mighty, mighty close. Let's put it that way. I do. I have one great-grandbaby, and they sent me a picture of this little great-grandbaby this week holding a brand-new book that she received. I'm a big sister, so she's going to be a big sister. So I'm going to have two great-grandchildren. So
congratulations.
it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. And I have 12 grandchildren and 2 more on the way. So I will have 14 grandchildren and soon 2 great-grandchildren.
Well,
so, yeah, I'm getting old.
I mean, what do we just go with the program?
That's why I'm here.
They certainly have a strong background with you as a grandmother.
Well, I hope so.
Teaching.
I hope so.
Mm-hmm.
I'm far from perfect. Sometimes I'm not the good example, but I try to be. But, yeah, they are the reason I'm here, because I see their life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, property, and prosperity just fading away, where they don't have rights, the equality. Where's the equality? It's not there. It's non-existent, especially if we bring in some of these other progressive ideas. That's not equality. That's chaos, and that's bringing down this nation. It's destroying it. We no longer know what we stand on. You and I do, but the majority of Americans, especially those that are getting paid to protest and are buying into these social programs, hook, line, and sinker, they really don't know what freedom is or independence is. And they're losing it mighty, mighty fast. It was last year when they signed a note saying that a petition in one of the colleges. It was a spoof, but they were willing to do it, to sign to repeal the First Amendment. They were signing away their right to sign a petition, and they had no clue. They had absolutely no clue. They said, well, I don't think people should hurt other people's feelings. So they really don't know where they come from.
No.
And that's sad. That's why we're here, Melody. That's why we're here, to help encourage people and lift them up and let them realize that we have hope. There is hope. That doesn't mean it's not going to be a tough row.
No, absolutely. Yeah. Anything that's worth fighting for it's never easy.
It's worth sacrifice, and I know you sacrifice, and I know I do. It's worth that. You know, those grandkids are worth that to me. And I know you have family, too, that you see that around, and we need to fight for them.
I know, because I see their thinking. And they get so caught up, and the young ones, they were Bernie Sanders fans. Oh, free college. Oh, really?
That's never going to happen.
So innocently, like, free college. It's like, you don't even have a clue. And you're going to college and you don't have a clue, and
were you able to reach out to them and talk to them, though?
We tried.
Okay.
And they fight it tooth and nail. They've been taught, they've been conditioned by the liberals, the teachings in schools and so forth, just to repeat and argue. And I was surprised the mother, I was having a discussion, and they really don't let you finish a thought. They make fun of your ideas. They make fun of Fox right away. They attack Fox. It's like, what's that got to do with anything? They don't influence my thinking in any manner, shape, or form. No one influences my thinking.
And Fox can get on their little rampages too, and I do watch them every evening.
I do too.
And it's like, really, can you not talk about some other things as well? Because they say all the liberals are talking about, all the mainstream media is talking about is this and this and this. And I'm thinking, every night you talk about what the mainstream media is talking about. So I see some circle reasoning going on here. And, but I think the heart of it is exactly what you said. They've been groomed. They've been deceived. And they've removed...
there's no critical thinking. You just want them to think. And they refuse. They repeat. They don't think.
That's right. We're going into another break.
Finally.
You want me to We're going into another break. We're trying to get used to this time clock. And the number to call, we'd love to have you join us, is 717-300-1218. That's 717-300-1218. And you're listening to Power Talks with Beth Ann and Melody Cedarstrom. Power is in the talk, and we believe the power is in you. So you give us a call at 717-300-1218, and Melody and Beth Ann will be right back.
You're listening to FirstAmendmentRadio.com worldwide. Freedom is never free. We need your support today at FirstAmendmentRadio.com.
Visit crosstheborder.org, CROSS, crosstheborder.org, to get your print, EPUB, or PDF version of Nicholas Arthur's new book titled When the Third Temple is Built. That's crosstheborder.org. When it comes to prophecy today, much of the evangelical Christian world has their eyes on Israel, waiting and watching to see when the third temple will begin to be built. The plans are drawn. The Jewish people are eager. Most evangelical Christians today believe that the rapture will happen before the third temple is built. Hi, I'm Michael Eugene. I was taught that Daniel's 70th week was in the future. Is that really what the Bible teaches? Have we searched the Scriptures and found this to be true? Why is it so important for a re-established Israel to build a third temple in Jerusalem? Is it necessary to build a temple on the same location already occupied by the Dome of the Rock? Is it necessary for sacrifices to take place in the temple on Temple Mount? Is there really a rapture followed by 7 years of tribulation? What is the New Testament temple? Can we identify history and prophecy? Who is the first beast in Revelation chapter 13? Who are the 7 kings in Revelation 17? I have asked all these questions, and I have found Nicholas Arthur's new book, When the Third Temple is Built, answers all these questions and more using Scripture to interpret Scripture. The Bible says that no prophecy of Scripture is of any private interpretation. Nicholas shows us in his new book, When the Third Temple is Built, how the Bible interprets prophecy and not man's private interpretation. Visit crosstheborder.org, C-R-O-S-S, crosstheborder.org, to get your print, EPUB, or PDF version of Nicholas Arthur's new book titled When the Third Temple is Built. That's crosstheborder.org.
Hear it first on FirstAmendmentRadio.com and FirstAmendmentRadio.net.
The book of Revelation says, "The spirit of prophecy is the testimony of Jesus Christ." This is at the very heart of FirstAmendmentRadio.com. In that spirit, we have created the Prophecy Reality News app for all of your mobile devices, streaming First Amendment Radio 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Available for your Apple, Android device, and smartphone, absolutely free. Get the Prophecy Reality News app installed today, so you can listen to First Amendment Radio wherever you are. The Prophecy Reality News app. Get it now.
Since the beginning of time, kings have sought it, nations have fought for it. It has been traded, it has been borrowed, it has been purchased, it has been stolen. There's a reason for it. To secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and to our posterity. Invest with the security of gold and silver. Call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188 or visit discountgoldandsilvertrading.net. Listen to Financial Survival with your host Melody Cedarstrom right here on FirstAmendmentRadio.com at 4 p.m. Eastern or 1 p.m. Pacific Time. Visit discountgoldandsilvertrading.net or call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188. Toll free 1-800-375-4188.
You're listening to FirstAmendmentRadio.com worldwide. Freedom is never free. We need your support today at FirstAmendmentRadio.com.
And we have turned to listening to Power Talks with Beth Ann and Melody Cedarstrom in the morning. This is a new show. We hope you are enjoying it. We do have a number that you can call and join us in conversation. Common Sense Conversations is what I call it. It's 717-300-1218. That's 717-300-1218. Melody,
we do have a caller.
Oh, okay. Do we have Neil? Is that who we have? Neil
I
from
do believe
Missouri?
so, yes.
Neil from Missouri. How are you doing today, Neil?
I'm doing all right. I heard you talking about Social Security numbers earlier. Have you explained what the government's use of the Social Security number is? I mean, it's not just for control. You know, they borrow, I've heard anywhere from $2 million to $20 million against your life based on that number. That's why when babies are born, first thing you do is slap them with a Social Security number so they can run to the banks and borrow money against you. They're using the people for collateral. You know, it's just like the Bible says. They will make merchandise of you, and that's exactly what they've done to us. And that's how Bill Clinton wound up with a huge budget surplus at the end of his administration because
he gave
blanket amnesty. Yeah, from the Social Security numbers that he gave to 8 million Mexicans. He gave them blanket amnesty, gave them citizenship, 8 million Mexicans, and that gave that gave 8 million people that he borrowed money against, which also collapsed the Mexican banks. Because when they lost their citizens, they lost their collateral, the banks called their notes due, the Mexican banks collapsed, and that's why the U.S. Treasury bailed them out.
Neil, President Clinton... Neil, hold on a second. I have a question. Is President Clinton the one who started that with the children? Because my first babies didn't have to have a Social Security number, but my last one did, and I had to get one for all of them.
Right. Somewhere during it, I think it was during the Clinton administration, they started that program of as soon as the baby's born, they slap the Social Security number on them so they can run borrowed money against their lives.
Because when I was young, you didn't have to get one until you got a job. And then you had to have
I didn't get my Social Security number until I was 9 years old when I was working full-time. I had to have a Social Security number so my boss could, because he had to pay into Social Security for me and all that jazz.
How old did you say?
9?
I started working a full-time job when I was 9. Yeah, I started working when I was 7, but I got a full-time job when I was 9 in the summers working for a printing company.
I was still being told to clean my room when I was 9.
My
mom didn't believe in allowances, so I didn't get anything for it.
Oh yeah, we didn't. There was no allowance. You had to do your work at home, and then I'd go outside the home to work to make money to pay for my Boy Scout camping trips and my equipment and all the other stuff I needed. So I paid for all that on my own, and then saved up enough to invest in my first piece of real estate when I was 18. So, but you should have seen it when I went in the military, because you put down how many months. You're supposed to put down how many months you worked, prior to entering the military. If you ever hold a full-time or part-time job, and they looked at that and thought I was nuts. They said, "What? You can't do basic math? There's no way you worked 9 years." I said, "Yeah." And of course, the FBI, because I had a security clearance, had to go to my boss and check me out. And sure enough, I've been working there 9 years, from the time I was 9 to the time I was 18.
Well, it's amazing, and my hat's off to you. I think that's amazing and wonderful, and I appreciate it. Melody?
But again, the Social Security number, you understand, that's why they're so... And one of the reasons they didn't bother to pay the Vietnamese for our POWs after the Vietnam War is because they weren't worth enough. The Vietnamese wanted more than what they were worth, and so they just wrote them off. And that's why they didn't get paid to have our POWs returned after the Vietnam War.
Oh, I had not heard that. So, okay.
Yeah.
Well, we know we're numbered. Now we know we got a little worth. We know we got a price on our head, don't we?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Okay. All right. I appreciate the call, Neil. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Neil.
You're welcome.
It always comes back to the almighty dollar, doesn't it, Melody?
It always does. And, the old, follow the money. And you can see who the culprits are and what they do with it. But
I was pretty frustrated when I had my fifth son, and I had to sign him up for, at that time, and he was born in 1984. At that time, you had to sign him up for Social Security, and I had to sign all the others up, the other four boys up too. Of course, I had to pay for that. We had just lost our home in a fire. We were pretty, we were in kind of a bad way, a lot of decisions, a lot of things being done and changed in our lives, and that was an aggravation. And you could not apply for your income tax. You couldn't do anything until you couldn't put them down as deductions until they all had Social Security numbers. And that was never that way before. So I think it was, as Neil said, it did happen under Bill Clinton as president, and I know that the surplus was only because he stole from Social Security.
He stole from the Social Security.
Yeah. That's where it was. That's what he were counting. So we have,
and they do change things, just like we hear about Ronald Reagan's great tax cuts, and how he's promoted growth in our economy. He did have some tax cuts. They did well the first year or two, and then it was a disaster afterwards. But we don't hear about that, because every politician that's trying to get elected wants to be connected to either Clinton or Reagan anymore. The Republicans for Reagan, and the Democrats, they want to be, well, I don't know any more about Clinton. Now it's Obama, since Obama kind of replaced Clinton for the, the tie for doing good. But it's the same way with the tax cuts that they want to do this time. It's not going to work. It can't work, won't work, because we have too much debt. And we're going to be talking about the debt ceiling here in just a moment. I just wanted to give a report. We had a ADP. ADP is a private payroll company. And on Wednesdays, prior to the government's release on payroll, they come out with their numbers to give the Wall Street and the investors an idea of what the growth was. Today, private payrolls rose by 178,000. June's was revised upward. Payrolls in goods-producing industries, which include builders and manufacturers, advanced 4,000. Some service providers added 174,000 to payrolls. So supposedly the result shows a steady job growth across a swath of industries, anywhere from professionals to businesses. Let's see if we can get a little bit down to the detail. Hiring and constructions rose by 6,000. Factory payrolls dropped 4,000. Which kind of makes sense, because lots of times during the summertime you do have factories that'll shutter, June, July, and August. Professional and business services increased their workforce by 65,000, while education and health services together added 43,000. The big number comes out Friday. ADP, I don't know why they use this number so strong, why they tout it. Maybe they just need a talking point, but they're usually always wrong. I guess like government, they always have times to readjust and revise their numbers from the initial reports. So it doesn't look like it's going to be anything shattering come Friday, either to the upside or downside. I think it should be fairly average, as ADP has indicated. So the impact on gold, I think, would be minimal, because I don't think we're going to get a 268,000 job increase payrolls, and I think it will be along the lines, particularly since it's summertime. So I don't see a big impact on gold. So that is gold. And I didn't have a chance to pull up to see where gold was actually trading. It was stronger when we came on the program today. If I can bring that up here quickly, or just let
sure.
while that's coming up, we were going to talk about the debt ceiling.
Well, I had an article on that, and that was also from WorldNet Daily. Let's see, I just kind of buried it here, where it's a little disappointed. It says that the White House is calling for Congress to raise the debt ceiling, and they're claiming, of course, that our President Donald Trump has flip-flopped on that. Now, I don't know if that's true. I don't know if that came from him in the White House or just some of his staff. I know Mnuchin was involved in it, and but I'm betting you that they do that, and I'm betting you that they will come together, the Democrats and the Republicans, to raise that debt ceiling. And that's the only bipartisan thing they have. And I said I'm predicting that they will agree on raising the debt ceiling.
Well,
what
of course,
do you think?
They have to. I mean, Mnuchin requested that there's a debt ceiling with a clean increase, meaning no other legislation is attached to it. That I don't see happening. They might pass, and increase the debt ceiling, but they will attach some sort of legislation to it, because that's how these politicians are going to vote for it. And it's highly unlikely it'll go through clean. Do I hear break music?
We should be about over. I do hear the music. We're going off the air.
I want another break. I don't want to go. I don't want to leave yet.
We'll have tomorrow, Melody. We'll be back tomorrow. I'm going to give the George Washington quote one more time. We are not afraid to follow truth, wherever it may lead, not to tolerate any error so long as reason is left free to combat it. And that is by George Washington. Melody, it's been a pleasure. Two mornings in a row. We're doing good here, girl.
Third time's the charm.
Third time's the charm. We will have it together tomorrow. Thank you so much, Melody.
Thank you.
And we appreciate you listening to us. We want you to write down our number so you can call us, 717-300-1218, and you'll be ready for us tomorrow.
Visit crosstheborder.org, CROSS, crosstheborder.org, to get your print, EPUB, or PDF version of Nicholas Arthur's new book titled When the Third Temple is Built. That's crosstheborder.org. When it comes to prophecy today, much of the evangelical Christian world has their eyes on Israel, waiting and watching to see when the third temple will begin to be built. The plans are drawn. The Jewish people are eager. Most evangelical Christians today believe that the rapture will happen before the third temple is built. Hi, I'm Michael Eugene. I was taught that Daniel's 70th week was in the future. Is that really what the Bible teaches? Have we searched the Scriptures and found this to be true? Why is it so important for a re-established Israel to build a third temple in Jerusalem? Is it necessary to build a temple on the same location already occupied by the Dome of the Rock? Is it necessary for sacrifices to take place in the temple on Temple Mount? Is there really a rapture followed by 7 years of tribulation? What is the New Testament temple? Can we identify history and prophecy? Who is the first beast in Revelation chapter 13? Who are the 7 kings in Revelation 17? I have asked all these questions, and I have found Nicholas Arthur's new book, When the Third Temple is Built, answers all these questions and more using Scripture to interpret Scripture. The Bible says that no prophecy of Scripture is of any private interpretation. Nicholas shows us in his new book, When the Third Temple is Built, how the Bible interprets prophecy and not man's private interpretation. Visit crosstheborder.org, C-R-O-S-S, crosstheborder.org, to get your print, EPUB, or PDF version of Nicholas Arthur's new book titled When the Third Temple is Built. That's crosstheborder.org.
The book of Revelation says, "The spirit of prophecy is the testimony of Jesus Christ." This is at the very heart of FirstAmendmentRadio.com. In that spirit, we have created the Prophecy Reality News app for all of your mobile devices, streaming First Amendment Radio 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Available for your Apple, Android device, and smartphone, absolutely free. Get the Prophecy Reality News app installed today, so you can listen to First Amendment Radio wherever you are. The Prophecy Reality News app. Get it now.
Since the beginning of time, kings have sought it, nations have fought for it. It has been traded, it has been borrowed, it has been purchased, it has been stolen. There's a reason for it. To secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and to our posterity. Invest with the security of gold and silver. Call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188 or visit discountgoldandsilvertrading.net. Listen to Financial Survival with your host Melody Cedarstrom right here on FirstAmendmentRadio.com at 4 p.m. Eastern or 1 p.m. Pacific Time. Visit discountgoldandsilvertrading.net or call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188. Toll free 1-800-375-4188.